Welcome to Donington Park then, for round 9 of the 500cc World Championship in 2000. Wet Donington Park. We had a dry weekend. Qualifying was done in the dry, but unfortunately the rain has come for race day and it's quite nippy out there. Not what we've been used to seeing so far this season. But Donington Park in the middle of Britain, just down the road from Derby and Nottingham. See, it's that classic fast-flowing first half of the section, the car park second section. Here's your pole man.
Alex Barros, yep, on the Emerson Honda. It's pretty chilly out there, 15 degrees of air temperature, 16 degrees of ground temperature, and the Brazilian definitely feeling it here. Our winner from the last round in the Netherlands, a great display of riding there, and he's capping it off with pole position here for this event.
There's Valentino Rossi lining up in his garage. Good qualifying from him, lining up on 4th position on the outside of that front row. Of course, finished on the podium a couple of times already this season. Not normally noted for his wet weather prowess, though. So this is the circuit, 30 laps of it, just over 4 kilometres long, 2.5 miles. Your front row, Alex Barros, Kenny Roberts, Gary McCoy and Valentino Rossi on the outside of the front row.
Max Biaggi is heading up row 2, ahead of Carlos Checa, Norfolk Abe and Alex Crivier, the outgoing world champion.
Tadej Okada, Regis Lacconi, Nobuo Aoki and Loris Capirossi, the second Honda Ponce rider down on the third row.
Tetsuya Harada, Sete Gibernau, Jeremy Williams, the second of the Aprilias, and Jürgen van der Gorberg.
And it's Cardoso, John McGuinness riding as a wildcard this weekend. Bringing up the rear, Sebastian Legrel, the Belgian. He starts from the back of the grid. But really, in these kind of conditions, anyone could do the business because it really does level out the playing field, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not raining at the moment, but you can see there definitely is standing water on the circuit. So it's going to be a tentative first few laps of these guys stream down, especially down the Craner curves. It can really pull as you head down to the old hairpin as Alex Barros comes up to take the pole position.
There's Barros, Roberts, McCoy and Rossi. That's your front row for the Donington Park, the British Grand Prix. The red flag goes away and the lights go to green. Away they go. A shocking start from Rossi on the outside of the front row, but a great start from Barros. Looks as though he'll get into Redgate first, just ahead of Regis Lacconi, and it's Lacconi who takes the whole shot.
It is. Lacconi comes right up the inside. Rossi is absolutely nowhere. He's been swallowed up. Looks like he hit a white line or something on the start, and his bike went completely side. But it's Lacconi leading from Barros, and looks like it might be Sete Gibernau who's come up into third position as they stream down the Craner curves, heading down towards your whole hairpin now, all line astern. Yeah, Regis Lacconi. He's had a few good wet weather races aboard both privateer twins and that 500cc Yamaha.
You can see Rossi was on the front row, dropping right down the order. Leading us through, though, on this first lap, it's Regis Lacconi from Barros. Gibernau is up into third. Norfolk Abe in fourth, and it's Kenny Roberts leading the World Championship, of course. 3 wins to his name. And he also goes well in these damp conditions.
But Williams there just getting past the OK on the exit. It looks like he's making good from starting 15th on the grid.
Jamie McWilliams.
Yeah.
Started way down the order, and the British fans will love that one, watching McWilliams come through the order.
And he's got past Roberts as well, so Roberts has slipped back in place, or McWilliams has got past him. There is Gary McCoy, front row starter. So that's 2 guys from the front row. Both Gary McCoy and Valentino Rossi have really struggled in this opening lap, but Valentino Rossi is starting to make up some ground now.
Aoki under pressure from Loris Capirossi. It's still Lacconi leading as they head down into Melbourne for the very first time. This tight right-hander, the car park section of the circuit they call it. And then you can see the 2 Suzuki bikes of Roberts and Aoki lining up 6th and 7th, but Lacconi from Barros. In third position is Gibernau. And then it's
Gibernau having a bit of a moment there. So
bit slippy through there. Jamie McWilliams right up into 5th position. What a start it's been from the Northern Irish rider on board the Aprilia Triple as they come across the line for the first time. It's Lacconi from Barros, Gibernau third, Abe fourth, but the flyer from the start is Jamie McWilliams, the Briton in his home Grand Prix. We haven't had a British winner of this 500cc Grand Prix, well, since Barry Sheen we haven't had a British winner. A long time indeed.
Yeah, and the Aprilia team were all pretty confident going into this race because it's a track that doesn't favour outright top speed. He suffered at both Italy, Mugello and in Catalonia just for sheer outright top speed. But here, it doesn't matter. He can keep the flow going on. But it wasn't really working in practice. They couldn't get the setup quite right. And that was why he qualified so far down. Both of the Aprilias really struggling in the dry here. But the wet is a different matter. It's all about keeping the speed up, keeping it nice and smooth as you go through the corners, which is what these guys are doing now. Sete Gibernau running a little bit wide there, but pulling Aoki going well wide. These guys still haven't quite worked out their braking markers. And as this track starts to dry, it's going to make it's going to all start changing up.
It really does take some time, isn't it, in these wet races for the riders to get into the groove. Just find out what the conditions are like, and surely as this race goes on, this track does dry quickly. These Northern European tracks are really made for when it rains. They do dry out rather quickly. So, there's no rush for anyone at the moment. Here comes Valentino Rossi up on the inside of Loris Capirossi as they go into the S's. And through Rossi goes. He moves up a couple of positions, but it's been a shocking start for him.
Here comes Barros. Does he get up the inside?
I think so.
Oh, it's so slow round there.
Through the Melbourne Loop. Alex Barros, the Brazilian, claims the lead. Could he be on course for a second victory in 2 races? Barros from Laconi now. That Honda Pons machine.
He obviously feels he can go a little bit faster in these conditions. Sete Gibernau was just starting to close in on them, and Barros feeling pretty confident out there at the moment. You can see that 3rd and 4th place people have closed up just a little bit. Barros eager to stretch his water wings here in Donington Park, pulling away from the pony slightly as we head down into turn 1.
Yeah, into red gate they go. Vic Williams still in 5th spot. Great start from him. Great start from Laconi as well, from 10th on the grid. But he's just losing touch slightly with Alex Barros. They go round and down into the crane of curves. I wouldn't fancy that on a day like this one. One of the fastest and most dangerous corners. A huge drop-off there as well as they go down into the whole hairpin. And you have to push these bikes very, very hard indeed, riding on a knife edge in these conditions.
As far as championship goes, as far as watch a replay of Regis Kenny losing out to Alex Barros, as far as championship goes so far, the guy that's looking to gain most from this at the moment is Norifume Abe, who's sitting in 4th position. He's currently 3rd in the standings with 91 points to Kenny Robertson's 125. And he'll be looking to get a good result here just to bring himself back up. He's also trailing Carlos Checa by 20 points, and Checa not featuring very much at the moment in this race.
Anything of the 2 Yamahas of himself and Biaggi, the 2 factory Yamaha bikes.
Can't even see them in the top of the screen there.
No, here's a Nori Abe, another Yamaha, of course, on the Antenna Tres Dantine Yamaha. Of course, his hair trailing in the wind as he goes through the S's. So Abe in 4th, McWilliams still in 5th, but he's not losing touch. And as you say, they're pulling maybe down on power on some of these 4-cylinder bikes, but on this track it really doesn't make too much of a difference.
This track in the wet, it's pretty much the most level playing field you could hope for in these 500cc class races, with a couple of different the 3 different engine configurations we've got going on, because obviously the triple is out there at the moment, the Modena bike in the hands of Anthony Gobert for this weekend. There is our reigning world champion, Alex Crivier.
He's not always been one, has he, for the wets, Crivier, and it's not been the greatest season for him so far. Just that victory, of course, in Paul Ricard early on in the season.
That was a good win. That was a classic win by Alex Crivier, but he's just not gelled with this new Honda. None of the riders really. Alex Barros there is riding on a year-old bike at the moment, and they seem to be putting, both him and his teammate Loris Capirossi seem to be putting that to better use than those guys currently riding the latest model bike, which includes obviously Valentino Rossi as well, and we'll see how he's doing at the moment. If you look at the top of your screen, you can see now he is just behind Kenny Roberts. So starting to make his way up.
I'd actually expect more from Kenny Roberts in these kinds of conditions. We usually expect him to be up right at the front in the wet, but as we say, it's a long, long way to go. 30 laps of this race, of course. So it's not all done and dusted. It looks as though Aoki ran it through a little bit wide, didn't he?
He's done that again. I just don't think he knows where he's going there. Maybe he sees something in the distance and decides he wants to chase it. But
there's your race leader at the moment. They come down under the Dunlop Bridge. Head towards the S's now, hard on the brakes. This is what they call the car park section, because there's an S's and 2 tight hairpins as well. After a really fast-flowing circuit, it does break the rhythm of the riders up somewhat. There is Valentino Rossi, of course, the reigning 250cc world champion. It's a debut season. He has impressed us on occasion. Flashes of brilliance.
Let's have a look at what he's done so far, actually. His first 2 rounds, DNF. Both ones. Remember, the first round we had at Welcome, he was out quite early on in that race, but those three podiums he's had, 3 third places in Spain, Jerez, in France, and just 2 rounds ago in Catalonia. Shows that he's definitely managed to transfer that talent up onto the bigger bikes, but we just really haven't seen the best of him yet, I don't think.
So he's got a long career ahead of him. There's Noric Abe in 4th spot, just behind Jamie McWilliams as well. Not losing touch. We've got a front group here of 7 of any of these riders, so can have a chance. So the graphic there. 25.5 laps remaining in this race. They go through the old hairpin. The front four do seem to be bunching up slightly. Barros certainly isn't pulling away at the moment. Laconi, we thought for a moment that he had been able to get away from the Frenchman, but Laconi's still in touch with Barros. And Rossi just bringing up that front seven. Just behind him is Noburatsu Aoki. It's Barros leading into the S's from Regis Laconi. Just behind him, Sete Gibernau, who's plying his trade slowly but surely, isn't he, in this race? He's getting along very, very well indeed.
Yeah, Gibernau needs a good result to get something out of this year. He's had a torrid start to the season. He's looking slightly more like his old self at the moment, yeah. And now we've got a front five, actually, all bunched up together. Jeremy Williams has joined the party. Barros leads in towards the final hard-braking zone. Deep on the brakes into there, not too deep here. It really does drop away from you, that track. It's a slightly adverse camber as you go down there, and even in the dry it can be quite tricky. Ooh. Barros has a moment. Barros foot off.
Just trying to change gear then, and his foot slipped off the foot peg. Head down into Redgate. Doesn't seem to affect them too much at the moment. Barros, it looks like Roberts has got through on McWilliams and up into 5th spot. So Roberts, as we expected, starting to make an impression on this race, starting to edge his way through towards the front. The championship leader at the moment, of course. The only man to have won more than one race, actually, so far this season. He's won 3 of those, and these are his conditions.
I think maybe McWilliams made a bit of an error, because you can see the gap hasn't actually closed really between Roberts and Arbe, especially going down Crenny Curves. Roberts has made up a little bit of room now, but looks like maybe McWilliams had a problem coming out of the final corner. He lets Roberts pass, but yeah, it's definitely good to see him starting to show the form we expected him in the wet. Remember the first race he won in Malaysia last year in the wet, torrential conditions. Not a bit worse than this, as Gibernau shows us this is how you ride in these conditions.
Yeah,
nice
really
manoeuvre.
Forcing out the inside of Regis Laconi there. Really pushing hard, wasn't he, to get through on the
He's
brakes.
not giving it up, he's not giving the touch thing.
Doesn't have the edge, does he, the Yamaha? Doesn't have the edge
Like
over the Honda. Here comes Arbe.
Arbe lets off the brakes.
And he's going to push them all wide. Noric Arbe goes through. That's what we like
Roberts
to see.
as well.
Roberts come through into 4th. What a great couple of corners there through the S's and through the Melbourne Loop. Arbe goes from 4th to 2nd. Roberts goes from 5th to 3rd. And the man who's lost out most there is Sete Gibernau. Right down the order.
Touching.
And he's pushed onto Jeremy McWilliams. McWilliams is lucky to stay on the bike there, because Gibernau lost it in the middle of Goddard's, didn't he?
And Rossi might come through as well.
Wow.
On the brakes, indeed, Rossi comes back through. McWilliams looks back for the inside. He's going to retake him. And Gibernau loses that wide 3 abreast.
Did I just see an Aprilia power past the Honda? What's happened there? Jeremy McWilliams going to Redgate, risking everything to reclaim positions, and he stayed in 5th position after all that shenanigans that's been going on. Let's see that once more. Laconi was trying to tip it in at Melbourne, but Arbe was in his way. No room for Gibernau either, so Arbe claims 2nd position, and then Roberts, just to add insult to injury there for Sete Gibernau, goes through on him.
Gibernau had to sit it up on the way in and on the way out of the corner. He lost the position both times, but how much grip have these guys got in the rain? I mean, most racers wouldn't want to ride like that in the dry, but here are these guys with really nasty conditions on the track that's never been known for its fantastic wet grip, and here they go on the inside. Laconi again has to sit it up as Jeremy McWilliams puts that Aprilia where it has no right to be, right up the inside, and that's through on him and unsettled Laconi going down the straight now, which has opened him up to a bit of an attack from Valentino Rossi, but still somehow the Brazilian Alex Barros is leading.
Valentino Rossi now goes through on Sete Gibernau as well, so really just get our heads around what's happening. Alex Barros is still leading this race. Sete Gibernau dropped right back down to 7th position now. It's Barros from Arbe, Roberts in 3rd position, McWilliams in 4th. Then Valentino Rossi now into 5th as he goes through on Regis Laconi, but Rossi runs it wide coming out of Melbourne. And then you can see Noburatsu Aoki has actually got past Gibernau, so I wonder if Gibernau has a problem there. Apart from the fact that it's raining, it's damp, and it's really difficult conditions
out there. And he's now
there.
got 8 bikes worth of spray going in his face. I think that probably doesn't help at the moment, but he's not giving up at the moment. He's right on the back of Aoki, and he should have the power to get past. Going to straight, then Arbe, Roberts.
Both had to think about it, didn't they, up the inside of Alex Barros there, but not this time. Gibernau takes the inside line and reclaims the position from Noburatsu Aoki, but still the Brazilian Alex Barros in these treacherous conditions here at Donington Park, leading from Noric Arbe. In 3rd spot, Kenny Roberts. And these 3 at the moment just pulling out a slight gap over Jeremy McWilliams, and then a bigger gap back to Regis Laconi in 5th.
The last time we saw these two guys having a fight, Arbe and Barros having a fight at Donington Park, was back in 1997. And it ended up with one of them going off onto the grass, and it was the guy who's in second place at the moment. Barros kind of put his bike in the way and punted him off, and Abe had to do a little bit of dirt track and stayed upright. Allegedly. Yeah, I mean, there was, I wouldn't say there was contact, but there was definitely nowhere to go for the Japanese rider, who has already won a race this year, and he's looking to get another one. Has he got the power to get down the straight as he lines up behind the Brazilian Alex Barros?
So the head down to the S's one more time. We've got a front four, and then gap back to Valentino Rossi in fifth. Gibernau trying to reclaim a couple of positions. Roberts thought about it there, but Abe closed the door straight away on the American. It's turning out to be a fine race. Normally in wet conditions it really can get spaced out, but not today at Donington Park. Really all bunched up and tight, chopping and changing positions all the time still. It's 2/3 of the race to go. There's McWilliams. The home crowd will be rooting for him to pull along, try and hit the front in this one. It's a British rider on the podium. I think it'll be for the first time since 1987, and that was in an 80cc race. So you can see when they come across the start-finish line, well, they have just done 22 laps remaining in this race.
Williams has lost out a little bit in the stop-start section, still losing out for grunt, out of corners on that V-twin. And Kenny Roberts has decided to sit back a little bit more. He had that look at Abe, but and Abe is now having a look at Barros.
On board with Alex Barros. Great shots these of Norikawa. You just couldn't see him there for a moment. You wondered, where's he gone? Where's he gone? But he was trying to make a move.
Completely alongside him, but had a second thought about it. But I'm sure he will have a go soon. Now they bunch right back up. But Williams has brought them right back up in that fast section, and really using the talents of that Aprilia well. Now here we go back now. We're going to head onto the back straight under the Dunlop Bridge. Picking it up, getting onto the fat part of the tyre as soon as you can. Weaving sideways. Abe looks like he's got good drive out of him. He's around the outside, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. But he's left the inside open for Kenny Robertson. First time round he had a look. Second time round, the guy who finished second in last year's championship moves through into second place in this British Grand Prix.
Starting to show a bit of his class, isn't he, in these conditions, Kenny Roberts Jr. Not making any mistakes and picking off riders when they make the errors. He's seen a couple of gaps open out in front of him. At that time at the S's. Before that, he was at Melbourne when he went through on Sete Gibernau. And he's just feeling his way into the race gradually. And the championship leader looking very good here indeed. And I wouldn't be surprised if he made a move soon on Alex Barros. But Barros hasn't made too many mistakes. Saw his foot slip off the foot peg a couple of times. And the Honda Pons team Macron, there's crew chief Ramon Forcada. Cito Pons, of course, as well. Watches on from pit wall. But Roberts does make the move through and into the lead at Redgate. The Suzuki man leads the British Grand Prix.
I would have thought he would have taken a little bit longer to do that, maybe sized up Alex Barros for a bit longer, but he obviously knows what he's doing. He obviously feels like he's got the grip and he's got the pace, and already he's making a move just like Jeremy McWilliams.
Watch out for this at the old hairpin.
The old hairpin, very nicely done. Puts that Aprilia completely in the way, block pass. Now he's on the back of Alex Barros. He doesn't want to see Kenny Roberts get away and streak off into the distance. He wants to stay with him because Roberts now looks to be the man with the pace.
Yeah, slight gap opening up between Roberts and Barros, and McWilliams has seen that. Reacted to it straight away, didn't he, by going through on Abe. See, Regis Laconi has dropped right off the pace now, was leading the race in the early stages, of course.
McWilliams, so much corner speed there. He gained a good bike length just in that one sort of 20-metre period, and he's now really pushing up on the back of Alex Barros. I just don't think he's got the pace.
Doesn't have it down the straight here, is he? To be able to get close enough to make the move. He's going to have to do it in that fast part of the track, where he can carry the corner speed on that Aprilia. He's tight in behind Alex Barros now as they head down to the Melbourne Loop. You can see, not going to quite be close enough, I don't think, to get through at the Melbourne Loop. He's having a great race so far.
Valentino Rossi might, just at the back of our screen there, he was having a look down the inside of Norikawa. Oh, and he was having a moment on the way out. No, Rossi didn't have a go. Abe managed to hold on to fourth place still, but he's definitely coming under more pressure from the young Italian, who in turn is coming under pressure from Nobuatsu Aoki, who looks to be moving up and taking fifth place away from the 21-year-old Italian, but not quite. Down again across the start-finish line. Kenny Roberts now is starting to stretch out a gap. It's got to be 0.6, 0.7 of a second if ever it was anything. It's actually a second. It's the magical second. There's my distance personal timing for you. Doesn't work at all. Barros still in second. McWilliams now all over the back of them. You can see there's definitely a lot more movement in these bikes, especially McWilliams going down there. His back end of his bike is really fighting all the way down, and he goes round outside as I say that. He's obviously fighting for good because he flies through, same place, one lap later, takes Barros, takes second.
so brave from Jeremy McWilliams, the Ulsterman, to go through any part of the circuit is obviously brave, but to do it at Crater Curves, diving in to the old hairpin. That really is edge of your seat stuff from Jeremy McWilliams, up into second position now. But Valentino Rossi just ran it a little bit wide there, and I think Aoki's got through on him. And yes, Aoki claims 5th position from the Italian. So the two Suzuki men making good progress. We've got Roberts leading the race, and now Aoki up into 5th position. And a Briton on the move as well. In second spot is Jeremy McWilliams. Great move at the old hairpin as they head down to the S's one more time. Here comes Aoki. Another position is it going to be? So the Suzuki's really showing that they have got to grips with these conditions, haven't they? Gradually in the race, they're really coming into it.
That Suzuki has always been a good bike if you can just ride it smoothly and take nice sweeping lines as Aoki does there. He left himself really open to an attack from North Miabe, but somehow he managed to hold him off on the brakes as they headed down into the Melbourne Loop. Barros now is not done. He's got to watch out for Aoki.
Defensive line, isn't it, from Alex Barros going into Goddard's. Very tight in there. Doesn't want to leave any doors open because Aoki is certainly on the move.
But really, what can anybody do about Roberts? In 2 laps, he's still managed to stretch out a second and a half worth of gap. And McWilliams hasn't really been able to take anything out of him on that lap. There's just Loris Capirossi. This is a disappointing race for him. 11th position.
Just behind Jürgen van der Goldberg as well in the TFL.
Aoki round the outside and then through on the inside of Alex Barros. This is great stuff.
Incredible manoeuvre there from Nobuatsu Aoki.
He is on rails at the moment. He's obviously seen what this bike can do. Runs it a little bit wide, but we have to pull that back in. But he's obviously seen what this bike can do. Knows he's got the pace to run at the front, and it's really starting to push it. This is the best run we've seen from him.
Well, he's probably
in
got
a very long time. Oh my word!
A bit of warning there as they go through Schwantz. But wow, Nobuatsu Aoki does hang on to 3rd position, hangs on to the Suzuki as well, doesn't drop it. And meanwhile, Norikabe has also gone through on Barros. So Alex Barros, who led this race for the early stages, has unfortunately dropped off at the front now, and he's been relegated down to 5th position.
Aoki has had a 3 4th place already this year. Most recently come 2 rounds ago in Catalonia. That was the best ride we've seen from him in a while, but he's yet to podium on that Suzuki, and he would dearly love to do it here. Get 2 Suzukis on the podium. It's been a long time since we've seen that, but they've got a good history at Donington Park, one of the favourite circuits of Kevin Schwantz, and a man who idolises Kevin Schwantz is Valentino Rossi as he goes past Alex Barros. And now starting to make a move, and he's racing behind his other idol, Norifume Abe. So it's all going on at the moment as we head back down. But what has happened to Barros? There is a slight, when you see the shots from the helicopter camera, you do see a slight dry line starting to appear, and maybe some of the riders who have gone for a slightly harder compound starting to find it's working a little bit better. You can see they're going to turn 1. There's definitely a dry line in the edge of the braking zone. But Valentino Rossi isn't in at the moment as he goes past Norifume.
Just going for the wet bits there, wasn't he, Valentino Rossi? And well, in the last couple of corners, Rossi's moved right up the order now, up into 4th position, past Norikabe. They head down, plunging down into Crater Curves one more time. And Rossi has the edge on board the NSR 500. Abe just losing touch with the front guys now. It's starting to spread out as we expected at the front a little bit more. Roberts leading from McWilliams, and it's Aoki, and then Rossi and Abe. This is the battle for 4th position.
I think we're now starting to see the true pace of these guys. At the beginning, they were all just trying to work out how much grip this track had and how fast they could go. And now, the guys who really know what they're doing in the wet are starting to show what they can do. They're starting to run at their true pace now. The low 143s, 142s for these guys, about 10 seconds slower than the time in the dry. All of the braking zones now have got a definite dry line. It's still greasy out there. This track has never been blessed with immense grip, dry or wet. And has been known to have the odd place where you can lose it for no apparent reason. Crater Curves being one of them, notoriously difficult place. But now Rossi, right.
Sometimes say it's about the fuel, don't they? There's an airport nearby, and fuel being dropped in the surf, Janet Shores, I believe.
Yeah, I'm a sceptic on that one.
But slippy there for another Aoki coming out.
I think he's just having fun.
Melbourne, maybe he was. Just enjoying the power of that Suzuki being laid down. He's under pressure at the moment from Valentino Rossi. He's picked up his pace in the last couple of laps. Just watching Kenny Roberts at the front, and as that drier line has formed, as you said, this is where the rider's going to earn their salt if they can come back in and rein Roberts' lead back in. He's leading by 1.8 seconds from McWilliams, then a further 1.5 seconds back to Aoki and Rossi.
Crivier down in 9th position, Caparossi in 10th, Van der Gorber in 11th, Okada, Checker and Biaggi, there they are, the two worked Yamaha bikes in 13th and 14th. Only 16 seconds back, but we're just coming up towards halfway, and it's not been a good day at the office for either of those two boys, but it's not going to be good for two of these two. Aoki's bike now, he must have a very soft setting on there because it's throwing him around all over the place. Maybe he's gone just a little bit too soft, and that might hurt him in the later stages of the race, but for the moment, he's just on top. You can see there, as it runs wide, he's just pushing the front everywhere.
And Rossi just behind him, the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:44.3 on that last lap. So Rossi is certainly upping the pace. He's lapping quicker than Kenny Roberts at the moment. And if he can get past Aoki, he might be with closing down on Jamie McWilliams now.
He's on the outside here, and
he's done it.
Looks,
the extra power of the NSR to go through on Aoki and up into third position.
It was clear before they started braking. That was the power of the Honda for you there in the hands of Valentino Rossi, riding the Nastro Azzurro sponsored bike. Blue flag bike down into the Melbourne Loop. One more time, the Waxway Aoki we're looking at, hanging onto the coattails of Valentino Rossi as they now head after the Irishman, the Ulsterman Jeremy Williams, riding the blue Aprilia. Kenny Roberts obviously still leading this race, looking quite commanding. His teammate.
It's always coming through Goddard, so it is off camber going through there. It's coming out as well. Just have to make sure you pick up the bike at the right time. If they do it just slightly leaned over too much, you can see him easily high side one of these bikes. There's Capirossi now putting pressure on his teammates, Alex Barros, so maybe we were a bit hard on him earlier on. And
he's taking Jürgen van der Gorberg with him, though. Pretty good ride there from the Dutchman. Valentino Rossi now up on the inside of Jeremy Williams. Caught him in less than a lap. And, so Williams didn't want to give that up. He's riding his home Grand Prix. He doesn't want to give up the fight too early. Now he's just got to hold on to him and see if they can be dragged up to Kenny Roberts now, because what can anybody do about the American, the guy who's currently leading the World Championship by 14 points over Carlos Checa, and he looks certain, whatever happens, to extend that over the Spaniard, extend that lead, with Checa currently languishing in 14th position.
To Goddard's. Valentino Rossi now is the man on the move, trying to close down.
Oh, there was a moment there. Aoki's down.
Aoki's gone down. What he'd seen, haven't we? Saw that happen on the very last lap. We've seen it happen so many times around the corner. Just too much movement from his back wheel, and Aoki goes down at Goddard's. And, well, that's his battle for podium positions out.
And now we have a battle of three. Well, it's two versus one at the moment. Yeah, there's now a massive gap towards the end of the field. Obviously, a couple of riders had to take avoiding action from that crash from Aoki here.
And that was the move from Rossi, wasn't it, on Jamie McWilliams through the S's, textbook Donington manoeuvre into the Melbourne Loop. They go. Still, Roberts has been closed down by Valentino Rossi, grabbing big handfuls of throttle, wasn't he? Coming out of the Melbourne Loop, desperate to close down on the American. Goddard's. This is where Aoki went the last time. Yeah, always through Goddard's corner. Always big bumps going through. That won't help at all. They can see Valentino Rossi's pit crew. And Mick Doohan, of course. They're all his former team. Just telling him you're 2 seconds behind Roberts.
14 laps to go. Plenty of time here. Especially as you can see that dry line really coming to good now. It's about who can save their tyres. Well, do you save your tyres? You just try and stay out ahead. Maybe Roberts has decided that he can't maintain the pace that he had before, and he's just going to make sure that his tyres last to the end of the race. He doesn't want to do anything stupid.
He doesn't want to go too far out. He's even gapping down to
sliding that.
1.3 seconds now, the gap between Roberts and Rossi. But Williams only a further 7/10 behind as well. So 3 men in with a shout of victory here, and all of them with their stories to tell. Valentino Rossi, the reigning 250 world champion. Jeremy McWilliams, he'd be the first Briton to win a Grand Prix in God knows how long. It would be a fantastic occasion if McWilliams could do this. But he's got 2 good guys in front of him, of course. Rossi in his debut season in 500. Roberts, of course, last year's runner-up, wanting to follow in the footsteps of his father, of course, who won 3 world championships back in the late 70s. Battled, of course, famously with Barry Sheed all those times. So all sorts of stories to be told here
back
today.
At Silverstone, not here then.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But Valentino Rossi's really closed up on him. He took 0.6 of a second out of him in just 2 sections of the track in 2 of the splits. And that's right on the back of the number 2 bike, the Suzuki.
And he knows he's there, doesn't he, Rob?
Yeah,
He's had a big look over his shoulder there.
I don't think that's a worried look over, though. I think that's I know you're there. I'm okay at the moment.
Roberts will fancy his chances in these conditions against anyone, I think. And Rossi, well, we've never seen him do that well in wet conditions before, Valentino Rossi, but certainly showing his pedigree here today. Just in behind Jamie McWilliams as well, underpowered. The conditions are going to help him. So let's see what happens. Regis Laconi, of course, was leading for the first couple of laps of this race, starting from 10th on the grid, but he's had a moment at Goddard's as well. It really is. We can't emphasise how slippy it is over at Goddard's. Whether it's the fuel, whether it's the bumps, whether it's the off-camber, there's something for all the riders to think about every single time. And something for Rossi to think about here in the shape of Jamie McWilliams.
Right in his way. There was just an Aprilia where he needed to put his bike. That was a lovely move there from Jeremy. I didn't see that.
McWilliams' pace over the last couple of laps. He's stuck with Rossi. And McWilliams now is the man who's going to put pressure on Kenny Roberts Jr.
The only thing I can really think about is that the lighter weight of the V-twin is making it a lot easier on its tyres in these conditions. They're going to be chewing up a lot less. There's a lot less power going through them, about 40 horsepower less. And it's a much lighter bike, so you could really have the advantage here as it really starts to dry out.
There is Kenny Williams aboard that Aprilia, behind the Suzuki of Kenny Roberts Jr. and in front of the Honda of Valentino Rossi. Well, this is tense time. The fans are going to be loving this one. 3 riders out in front in the wet conditions in the British Grand Prix. They might not be loving the rain that's fallen on them, but they'll certainly be loving the action out on track. It's a thrilling British Grand Prix. Who will take victory home with them? 12 laps remaining, still over a third of the race to go. So, as you know, anything can happen.
Yeah, we've got a son of a living MotoGP legend and a guy who's currently leading the World Championship, being tailed by the best British rider we've seen in a long time in the 500cc class, and now he takes the lead into the old hairpin. That was confidence for you. That is, I'm just going to put this bike where I want it. I don't care what you say. The Aprilia team look on as probably in disbelief. They weren't expecting this after the poor result they had in qualifying, and just behind them is the prodigy Valentino Rossi, 125 and 250cc world champion. This is his debut year, let's not forget that. He's got to have time to learn the bike. He's shown he's learned it at the moment. The extra weight of the 500 perhaps giving him more confidence in the wet than the 250s and 125s ever did. He's showing it now because he's got to run on Kenny Roberts down into the S's, cuts across the dry line onto the wet, back onto the dry, and says thank you very much, I'll take second place.
Valentino Rossi then on the move up into second position once again. He already had that position, but Williams took it from him. And so it's the Briton leading in the British Grand Prix here at Donington Park from the Italian Valentino Rossi. American Kenny Roberts is in close attendance, and don't give up on Kenny Roberts at all, because we've seen him do it in these kinds of conditions. We've seen him battle to the very, very last in these kinds of races. So don't count him out at all. I'm sure he won't be left behind by these two.
Sure, let's watch them as they drive out over the beat. I think it's none more so than Valentino Rossi. In comparison, the Aprilia looking pretty stable on the exit of the corners, not on the way in as he hits a bump going down into turn 1. Joe Williams with the reflective helmet, the BFE helmet, heading down the trainer crest behind fairing of that V-twin Aprilia.
You see how it's closed up there, just 0.8 of a second separating Williams from Roberts. It was 3 seconds a few laps ago.
And then they're 8 seconds ahead of Rabe. They've really destroyed the rest of the field with the pace they're running at the moment.
Max Biaggi's moved up the order into 9th. He was way down in 14th position, but he's starting to go a bit better. There's Laconi and Aoki, the two men who obviously crashed at Goddard's, and you've seen them both take a tumble there anyway. But Williams, though, is the man leading the race. From Carmoni in Northern Ireland. Ooh, a little bit of a slip from him as he hits down towards the straight and under the Dunlop Bridge. A big moment for him.
What do you reckon he's thinking now then? He's got just about 11 laps to go here.
Knowing Joe McWilliams, he's probably not thinking anything. He's thinking, he's obviously going to be thinking about this, the British Grand Prix, and he's in the lead, but you know, he's got to be thinking about finishing the race more than anything. He's got to be thinking about bringing the bike home. We saw him, of course, on the podium at Mugello just a few weeks ago, but wouldn't it be glorious for him if he could finish on the top step of a race.
And he's beaten Valentino Rossi in a straight fight before as well, 1998, the Sachsenring. Jeremy Williams riding a very, very customer bike, beat Valentino Rossi that year. Rode away from him to finish just behind Tetsuya Hirado. Beat both Capirossi and Rossi in that race, and you know, he's got it in to do here.
Having to fight though, isn't he? Really pushing hard.
But look at the try line now. Great shot.
And he really is making the most of it, isn't he?
Roberts now.
Both Roberts and Rossi can't stay with McWilliams, especially in this section of track. Through Redgate, down Hollywood, then Craner Curves and into the old hairpin. There's no one to match McWilliams today through those sections. Carrying the power, the power through the corners. That's a Aprilia lightweight bike. It's important for him to maintain the speed, and that's why the fast sections are much better for him. When he gets tighter at the end of the circuit, that's where you'll see the Honda and Suzuki close up on it.
And that, unfortunately, is just before the finish line.
Unfortunately,
so
that could...
What we don't want to see is him getting mugged
right
at
on the
final
last
corner.
lap. Yeah.
So he wants to keep this lead. He needs to keep a good half second coming into this final bit, or else he may find himself overpowered by both of these bikes, possibly.
You can see the gap closes up in that section by 0.2 of a second as they power down the back straight.
Second, I reckon. You know, to really have that cushion he needs. One of the other bikes probably would only need 0.3, but with the power he's giving up, he needs that gap in order to be sure of taking the victory here in Donington Park. But there's still quite a way to go. Anything happens, it dries out, these tyres step around. Look at the rear tyre of that Aprilia. It's pretty good condition at the moment, the rear Michelin. It's not started to chunk or anything like that, whereas compared to the vehicles, we can't quite see it there, but
slight moment coming out of Goddard's. Seems to be one every single lap, doesn't it? He's willed on by his Italian team. McWilliams then, leading the British Grand Prix with 9 laps remaining from Valentino Rossi in second position. In third place is Kenny Roberts Jr.
His tyres are in pretty good condition as well.
We said he might be holding on, saving something for the end of the race, and I wouldn't be surprised. He's a great tactician, Kenny Roberts Jr.
I don't think he's particularly worried about this. He's a man. He's thinking about the champion. He knows that this is his year to take it. Suzuki is a good bike. Maybe not quite as good in all conditions as it was last year, but they definitely found something more with the setup for this year. And he knows that he's just got to make the most of it, and that might mean finishing third here rather than going for the victory. But at the same time, with Checker so far down the order,
with Crivier as well, struggling like he has done so far this season.
Arbe now has dropped back into fourth. He wants more than just a few points extra over, 3 points extra over Arbe that it would be if he finished third.
Fighting with that Honda.
Lovely shots there as they come out down under the Dunlop Bridge. Looking back, it's Barros. Is it Barros?
No, it's Loris Capirossi.
Loris Capirossi, indeed. Really, an
average start for the race, shall we say.
He's come back into it.
Fourth position for him. Noric Arbe in fifth. I wonder who was that in the top of the screen there. Capirossi has a problem going through the S's. I wonder if Capirossi's going to have to retire from this one because he really slowed down through there. Don't know whether he ran it wide or what. That's actually Van der Gerberg on the TSR just behind him.
Proving that it is a track for these ones here. That Honda is well down on power. It's got a good chassis, but absolutely cannot keep up with even the slowest of the V4s in normal conditions. But Van der Gerberg, as ever, riding the absolute wheels off. And Cedric Gibernau is just about staying with him. Max Biaggi just caught the first real glimpse we've seen of him this race. It's behind them. He's got to worry about Alex Crivier as well. Here he is. We're actually looking at Loris Capirossi, but behind him in sixth is Jurgen van der Gerwe there, the number 17 Dutch rider. Been riding this bike for quite a while now. First off runner in 1997. Had a great season there. But a V-twin is leading the race at the moment. It's Jeremy Williams, the number 99, carrying that number for a very long time in racing. But now even he is starting to really slide down.
With the dry line now, this is when you don't want the wet tyres on there. When you've got that dry line forming, the tyres will be heating up far, far too much. You have to start looking after them, finding the puddles out on track, trying to cool them down as much as possible. The edges will start to rip, they'll start to tear, start losing grip, especially in corners like Goddard's. And you see, Roberts, this is where the tactics come into play. We saw him slow up a little bit when he was at the front, as both Rossi and McWilliams. You can see the edge of McWilliams, the right edge of that side.
Yeah.
Looks like it's starting to get a little bit rugged.
And that's two of the final slow accelerating points when they're in first or second gear on the right-hand side of the track, coming out of the S's and coming out of the Melbourne Loop. That's where it could hurt him. The other guys have got a little bit more grip. But let's see how he is down the training curves. He was fast a couple of laps ago. Making lead, and we've got, this is Gary McCoy has come into the pits and he's changing tyres. He's putting on a slick tyre.
Ever since that first race, really hasn't gone particularly well, has it, for Gary McCoy? Since it's just gone downhill. More disappointment for him, having to change tyres. And that's going to see the end to any chance he had of picking up decent points in this race. McWilliams, we've seen a couple of problems, haven't we, here and there. The tyres will be getting hot, start to be getting a little bit slippery as well. Start to be tearing up around the edges. It's in these right-handers where they probably all start to struggle. That's where we seem to see they were getting a little bit raggedy. And Rossi, whoa, having a big moment coming onto the back straight there. The back end of that Honda slipping and sliding too, so might not all be plain sailing for the guys with Jeremy McWilliams. The Ulsterman is still leading the way. The fans will still be loving it. The air horns are still blowing around Donington. This could be a glorious day for British motorcycle racing.
So you might think that riding with a wet tyre in the dry might be quite fun because you've got so much grip because it's such soft, sticky rubber, but it may be on the rear because you can really feel the slides, but on the front, you normally don't have any feeling at all once it starts to dry out. So these guys are going to be really struggling as they're going on the brakes, not really knowing where the limit is on the dry line. They'll be probably happy if it rains a bit again and levels it out once more, but on the rear, you can really slide it out. If you watch a replay of Jeremy McWilliams, just getting a nice two-wheel drift almost there. Rossi having a big moment in the background. That was what you were talking about earlier.
Coming onto the back straight there. So, 6 laps remaining as they head through Redgate, down into the Craner curves one more time. 3 riders in with a chance of victory in the British Grand Prix. Who will it be? Will it be the Briton? Will it be the 250 world champion, the reigning world champion in 250, Valentino Rossi? Or will it be Kenny Roberts leading the World Championship at the moment? And of course, runner-up in last season's World Championship. And at the moment, I have to say, my money's on Roberts. He looks very calm, very collected. Looks as though he certainly knows what he's doing here. Playing really his cards close to his chest.
Really starting to get tense here now. What are we going to see? We just got a back marker that they passed. That was Sebastian Legrel, so don't worry about him. That's not anybody catching them. I don't think we'll see anybody, especially McCoy, who switched to dry tyres now, making up any ground on these guys. We'll simply have lost too much time. Really, you can see how much harder they're pushing now as they come over there. They're really wheeling over that bump. It's quite a pronounced bump as you come under there.
See the dry line, but there are still the odd wet patches.
You don't want to go offline now. That's the thing. Yeah. How do you pass somebody? You notice we haven't seen any passes in quite a while, and I think they're unwilling to try it because if you do make a mistake now, why not make it on the last lap? If you're going to try it at the last possible moment. You don't want to try it. It works, but then somebody repasses you and do it again. Wait until the last lap and see what you can do. Just keep Jeremy Williams in sight, and what both of them will be saying. Despite being only 21 years of age, Valentino Rossi does have a very wide racing head on their shoulders, so don't be surprised if he's got a few tricks up his sleeve as we head into the final 5 laps of this, the British Grand Prix here at Donington Park. Drying line, drying track. 3 guys fighting for the podium and for the victory.
It's going to be a momentous occasion for someone. First Grand Prix victory for McWilliams it would be. It would be a debut, it'd be a first Grand Prix victory as well. 500 Grand Prix victory for Valentino Rossi. Kenny Roberts, it would be his 4th victory of the season, but will certainly set him on his way for his championship challenge. So it's going to be a big turning point of the season, this one. No Checker fighting out on the top here. No Privier, the reigning world champion, of course. No Biaggi, no Abe at the moment. Just McWilliams, Rossi and Roberts. And it's really, really tight now. Getting very, very close.
We could see something from Rossi here as McWilliams has a big wobble coming out of there. And that, if Rossi hasn't had to shut off, you could definitely have a run on him now.
Fastest lap of the race with Gary McCoy. Must be the change of the tyres for him, sure.
At least 2 seconds faster than anybody else on track at the moment. So
he did that, go in and change the tyres.
Yeah.
But,
we didn't see what he did with the front tyre though. That could just be a wet rear. So I don't think he'll be doing enough to catch them really. But it's nice that he's still not given up.
Into Melbourne they go, and they all really concertina up in there, don't they? And McWilliams still leading, but he's coming under increased pressure now from Rossi and Roberts. Roberts takes a wider line down there. I wanted to cool the tyres probably, just not going down that dry line, trying to just get the wet on the straight bits of the track and taking the dry lines in the corners. Clever riding once more from Kenny Roberts Jr. Across the start-finish line now.
You can see him again there. He's staying a lot longer on the wet part of the track. He's the only one that's thinking about doing that. We haven't seen that. Normally that's what you expect when a dry line starts to appear, trying to keep those tyres as cool for as long as possible, because these wet tyres aren't designed to operate at the sort of temperatures they're running at now, and they're really feeling the strain. The carcasses inside will be really starting to mash up and screw up. Just keeping them that little bit cooler, knocking off a few degrees here and there will really make a big difference.
Williams slides it through the old head, but I think every single corner now is seeing the rear wheel step out of that Aprilia and of the Honda and Suzuki of Rossi and Roberts behind him. But it's the Ulsterman, Jeremy McWilliams. Could he be on course to take his first ever Grand Prix victory? What a day to do it would be in front of the British crowd at Donington Park. He's got Valentino Rossi and Kenny Roberts to deal with first.
It's a big ask. It's a big ask for the Ulsterman. Sliding it so much out of there now. He's giving absolutely everything and really ragging that Aprilia.
Absolutely suit every single corner now. They head down to the S's one more time.
3.5 laps.
You could throw a blanket over all three of them, couldn't you?
Probably
so
wanted as well.
tight.
It's chilly. It's still not warm. It's still not warm despite it stopping raining. Here comes Rossi.
Up on the inside at Melbourne Loop, Valentino Rossi's going to go through and he's going to take the lead. And see what he did there? Went straight back into the dry line to make sure he got the grip to hold on to that position. And Rossi goes through to take the lead.
That could be decisive. He's showing the others how to do it now. Kenny Roberts had a perfect view of that. Just had to do it. He pushed McWilliams completely onto the very edge of the dry line and took the middle meaty part for himself, so he had the grip that he knew was there going down into the Melbourne Loop. Great move there by Valentino Rossi, and now he leads. We've just got 3 laps left in this sprint, and Kenny Roberts now looks to do the same thing, but just a bit too far back.
Well, we've seen McWilliams has some pace going into Redgate. Roberts thought about it. This is where McWilliams has been the fastest guy, coming through Craner curves, down into the old hairpin. Is there any chance of McWilliams making a move back on Valentino Rossi?
Rossi's pushing hard though. He's sliding much more down there than he has on previous laps. He knows that this is a make or break moment, and he wants to break the other riders.
Further down the order, you can see Loris Capirossi is 18 seconds down on Kenny Roberts. Such a huge gap back to him, just in front of Norikabe. But these guys have been in a class of their own today. Rossi from McWilliams, from Roberts. Who will take victory in the British Grand Prix? 2.5 laps to go. And Rossi it is who's hit the front, but he isn't pulling away from the others, is he?
No, and Roberts is looking more determined now. He's got that steely glint in his eye that he had all along, but McWilliams smoking the rear tyre as they come out there. But Roberts is really looking like he needs to get past McWilliams. McWilliams, big look over his shoulder.
Didn't look like that from McWilliams, looking over his shoulder, wondering where Roberts was. Just needs to get after Rossi as much as possible. Maybe he thinks that Rossi has the edge. Look how much that Honda pulls away from the Aprilia.
That Aprilia's having serious tyre problems now. He's worried about just holding on to what he's got, and he's not going to do it as Roberts throws
what
it up the
disappointment.
inside. No,
McWilliams.
McWilliams back up the inside. Great move there, just shoved it back, held
Carrying
it
a
tight.
little bit more pace, wasn't he, through the corner there, McWilliams?
But it's
let Roberts go through.
Yeah, as these two fight, Rossi is going to clear track.
It's exactly what Valentino Rossi wants as well. You can see the fans. They're loving the fact that Williams is still there and has claimed back that second place, but they'll be desperate to see him in first position. But it's not him at the moment. 2 laps to go. Valentino Rossi then from Jeremy McWilliams. Kenny Roberts in third position. Who will take victory in this such hard-fought Grand Prix? And you can see there McWilliams will have watched Rossi having such problems go through.
Here we go, down the Craner curves. Here we go. Jeremy McWilliams right on the outside. He's going to line it up behind Valentino Rossi. This is his chance into the old hairpin here. He's going to be braked on the brakes, but not quite close enough. It's so close. You can smell the rubber on the back wheel of Valentino Rossi's bike now. Really on him. He's got one more chance as they head up the hill. Will he be close enough? I don't think so, no. He's going to sit behind. There's 1 more lap to go. 1.5 laps to go in the British Grand Prix. Now Kenny Roberts is having a look. This is his sector of the racetrack. This is where he can start to use the power of the V4 Suzuki over that V-twin Aprilia bike. They'll all light it up as they come out of here, sliding it sideways. McWilliams more so than the others, really.
The smoke going off the rear of that Aprilia. And there's his wife watching on from the pit lane. Jamie McWilliams, can he do this one? Can he take the first victory for Britain? At the moment, it's an Italian who's leading in the British Grand Prix. It's very, very tense stuff. They're going to the Melbourne Loop for the penultimate time now. Rossi from McWilliams to Roberts. No move this time from Kenny Roberts Jr.
But he's close. He's very, very close.
Where is it going to be? If anyone needs to make a move, it's surely got to be from McWilliams down at the old hairpin where he's been very strong throughout the race. I wonder if he makes a move. Is he going to have enough to hold off either Rossi or Roberts?
A lot of time there, just in that short drag. So, competition wonders. He didn't get quite the drive out of that final corner as he did the previous time round. And we're on to the final lap here at Donington Park. The dry line has become dominant here. It's about who can hold on to their tyres and who has got enough left for this final flying lap round the Leicestershire circuit.
But Williams really pushing very, very hard to stay with Rossi as they head down Craner Curve.
Oh, sideways, completely sideways.
Oh, he's really not close enough at the moment, is he, Jamie McWilliams? Roberts, what is Roberts going to do? Can he get past McWilliams? Can he challenge Valentino Rossi in the latter stages of the race? Just a half a lap remaining. Valentino Rossi could be on course to win his first 500cc Grand Prix. The reigning 250cc world champion. So much is expected of him. He's got that factory Honda.
McWilliams hasn't given up though. McWilliams hasn't given up. He's trying so hard there, completely out of the seat.
Corner speed is McWilliams carrying.
Okay, here we go. This is the run down. We'll head out fast right-hander under the tunnel. Williams completely sideways before he was halfway round the corner. My word, what riding skill from the Osman. And Rossi sideways in the air over the bump down into the S's for the final time. We've just got 2 corners to go after they come through this right-left flip-flop. Valentino Rossi sideways on the way out, McWilliams soda throughout. Roberts, straight line, and he's got the drive. Roberts has got the drive.
Roberts looks like he's going to be able to go through at the Melbourne Loop, but it looks like this race could belong to Valentino Rossi, unless there's a mistake. Roberts does claim second for McWilliams.
He holds it tight this time.
How cruel is this on the Osman, the Briton in the British Grand Prix? But it looks like we could have a first-time winner.
He's on the wet defensive line from Rossi. Oh my word, that's a race.
Through the damp, but it looks as though Valentino Rossi will claim his first ever Grand Prix victory in the 500cc class. He does. Rossi wins from Roberts in second place. McWilliams, what a disappointment for him. He'll be delighted to be on the podium. He so wanted a victory. Jeremy Burgess celebrates with Mick Doohan, the former crew chief and the former world champion, of course, but the new protege of Mick Doohan and of Jeremy Burgess is Valentino Rossi, and he takes his first ever victory in 500s, and look how happy he is with it.
So, final results then, confirmation. Valentino Rossi from Kenny Roberts, Jeremy Williams, Loris Capirossi in 4th, Jürgen van der Gorbeck on the V-twin Honda in 5th ahead of Arbe, Crevier and Sete Gibernau finally ending up in 8th position after running his highest 3rd early on. Max Biaggi in 9th, Tadej Carter in 10th ahead of Checker, who was 2nd in the championship and should just hold on to that. Register Coney, John McGuinness getting points on his wild card. Gary McCoy 17th in the end ahead of Sebastian Legrel. But on the podium, Valentino Rossi, his debut win in the 500cc class.
Jamie Williams stands on the podium for the 2nd time this season. Kenny Roberts, how important is this for his championship challenge? 2nd place for him, but the race winner today is Valentino Rossi, his first ever 500cc Grand Prix victory. Jeremy Burgess goes up there as well. Shake of the hand with Valentino Rossi.
Barry Sheen handing out the trophy to Jeremy Burgess.
You can see there, Zach and Jack, Jeremy Williams' 2 kids have joined him up on the podium as well. Very special day for the British fans to see a Briton on the podium like this. So, delight then for Valentino Rossi, congratulated by Kenny Roberts Jr. as well. They know each other from days back at the ranch in Barcelona, but Valentino Rossi on the top step for the first time and really gets to enjoy the champagne. This was the British Grand Prix.